Holy shit, that was a day, man. Full-time job, farm, isn't it? For all my contractor friends out there that shot me some advice about the water tank, excuse me, I screwed up. It wasn't 19,000 gallons, it's 1,900 gallon tank. So there, but anyways, I went and got a bunch of 2x12 treated and 6x6 treated, and some 3.5-inch lag bolts, and I made a great big huge supportive box and bolted it all up, put concrete pads underneath, and I'm ready to go. So there you go. That's today's project. Excuse me. Now it's the end of the day and I get my hour to share and read and learn from all of you. All of us together. Quick note, just in case anybody doesn't know. Right now, the country that I am living in, Canada, is probably leading the world in fascism. And that's not being sarcastic or negative, that's just being fact. We have a leader who wasn't voted in by the people. We have a so-called leader who has made it illegal to protest or make any anti-Trudeau propaganda in the city of Ottawa. They are doing everything they can to suppress the people, and that is fact. They're currently making it so that independent reporters, journalists cannot do anything unless they are licensed from the government. Can you believe that one? Meanwhile, our government took $61 million of our money to buy the mainstream media. So they are basically rallying it up so that we are absolutely defenseless and powerless, and they have absolute control of the people. I am currently a healthy human being held hostage in Canada right now. I can't leave. How pathetic is that? So I decided to pass it on to everybody. Canada's a mess. Absolute mess. I'm ashamed of what it has become. I'm ashamed of how the people have let it get to what it has become. And I hope that our military and law enforcement are absolutely ashamed, because you all should be, to have let this go as far as it's gone. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's wrong. And we are not a free country. There you go. And believe me, I have bit my lip hard while delivering that to you. I'm quite certain the dirtbag, sleazy, absolute effing pricks who are possibly monitoring my page, and they're just hoping and waiting for me to say something that may be considered promoting violence or something along those lines, so they can come here and take my firearms away. So that's the only reason for you why you know I bite my lip to a point, right? Just enough to keep me out of being absolutely visited, and giving them absolute fuel to come and take away, or attempt to take away, things that belong to me. But anyway, I hope there is a lot of people out there that are getting absolutely pissed off and had enough of this horse shit. I know I have, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to turn it around to ensure that the people here in this country and others get a fair crack at living a fun and exciting and healthy and free lifetime. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what we're supposed to be fighting for. We're not supposed to be fighting for power, oil, energy in another country. We're not supposed to be. All right, I'll stop there. You get what I'm saying. But just so all you know, Canada is leading the world. Canada is an example to the world of what not to do and where we are headed and where we shouldn't be headed. It's brutal. I'm hostage. I'm hostage in a country just like somebody in North Korea is hostage. How amazing is that? Who would ever have thought it would come to this? And it's going to get worse. It's a shit eater. Tell you what, it's a shit eater. A good guy army is needed. But anyway, let's get to hearing from the people, hearing truth and spreading the truth no matter what. And sticking together and becoming larger and stronger, all right? Now, this is titled Mind Speak and the HTH Family. Stevie can share my first name, Martin, from Washington. I wrote you in the past 1 year ago and figured I would send my story again because I've yet to hear it shared, so here it goes. I was up in a local mountain here in Washington State. I'm a retired Army. My MOS, military occupation specialty, is not important this time. Here goes. I had recently purchased a long gun. I want to go shooting, and Bose Battle Optic Zero. I drove the 25 minutes or so to one of my favorite places to go shooting. As I arrived and exited my truck, I opened the rear door and grabbed my 30-06, my AR-15. I carry a service, 45 on my hip always. As I walked the short distance to my preferred firing lane, a voice clear as the day spoke to me. It said, "Please don't shoot here/me." I thought, what the F just happened? And it repeated itself. I just turned around, got into my truck and drove off. In hindsight, I wish I would have had the presence of mind to speak back to get into a conversation. I just left the area and drove off. That would be freaking crazy, wouldn't it? I stopped about 150 meters from the spur I was on and stopped to take a leak. I left the door open and the truck running and did my business. While I was standing there, I got zapped. I immediately felt sick to my stomach and head ached like I was being hit with a hammer. I promptly zipped my fly and said out loud, okay, I'm leaving. Why are you doing this to me?" and drove off. Steve is pretty crazy, but I never felt any fear, just more of a feeling like I was a nuisance and to leave, so I did. Second sighting, different area. I was around the boundary of Fort Lewis and I had just bought a 6.5 Creedmoor AR. I went to shoot it and familiar myself with it and set up to shoot. I fired one round and got zapped. I looked around and stood up in the bed of my truck as I was laying prone with the tailgate down. This amazing being stepped from left to right, about 25 yards from me, and it was huge. A round head, the color of tree bark, mix of gray and brown. The odd thing was the ears and face were like a pink or human skin with a rose hue. As we made eye contact, I had no fear. I was just like, what the F, it's huge. My estimation at 25 yards, it had to be over 10 or 11 feet. It just stepped from behind a giant fir and to the adjacent one. It looked over its right shoulder and gave me a look like, I know you see me and I see you. Then it just vanished. I've never felt scared, just in awe at the power and grace this thing demonstrated. Fluid and grace. I've been a believer all my life and have areas that I know where they're habituating. And I keep it to myself as I don't want a bunch of mouth breathers walking around the woods armed to the teeth trophy hunting. Sorry. I believe they are people and have values and social structure. I wish I could sit and have a one-on-one. I have a million questions for them. Steve, I have more to share. I just don't know if I should. I have my opinion as well as most others. I've amassed photos and evidence to keep to myself. If you're ever in Washington State and just want a tour of the areas I have found, let me know. You can reach me at, for you only, and your number. Sincerely, Martin. Have a great day. Hey, Martin, thanks for that, man. That sounds quite interesting. If you want, obviously you've got anonymity, right? Nobody knows who you are. I don't know who you, well, I know who you are. We're not going to share who you are on here because you asked me not to, right? But if you do have this type of evidence and you want to share it with the people just for them, just for the fellow human beings who have seen these things and are troubled by it, you can safely share it through me if you want or not. And I appreciate the offer to come and check out these areas with you. But just so you know, that doesn't really have any interest to me. I'm not one of those people who wants to go to where they are. I'm surrounded by these things everywhere I go. There's no shortage of me being where these beings frequent normally, and I have no interest in finding them out, seeking them out myself. I prefer to just stay away from me. I'll stay away from you, but I'm going here anyway. Leave me alone. We're good. So that's why I would graciously not accept that offer to go check those areas out with you, okay? But anyway, as far as sharing any information or any knowledge you may have that may help people, then I would be all over you sharing that here through me with all the people. That's what I'm about, okay, man? But anyway, thanks again for sending that. Sounds pretty bizarre. You're one of the lucky few that didn't come down with being absolutely terrified the second you had eye contact with that being, right? Lucky you, man. And thank you. Thanks again for sending that in. All right, we got another one. New Zealand sighting. For all of you people that think there isn't any sightings in New Zealand, there's been a lot, and they've emailed me. Hello, Steve. I hope this email finds you well. Firstly, if I may say so, thank you for what you're doing. From the very first time I saw one of your videos, I could tell you're a no BS guy that won't tolerate fools, because within this area, the fools are many. Cheers to that. Thanks for your kind words. I first sent you this email back in October 2020, and I've patiently been waiting for you to read this story. I know you have many thousands of emails to read, but when you mentioned previously that many had been sent to your spam folder, which empties itself monthly, I thought I'd send it one more time. Okay, man, it worked. I've been following the subject since my early 20s, I'm 49 now. When my brother had an encounter with something he couldn't explain, unfortunately, my brother's no longer with us, but I still remember what he told me all those years ago very clearly. I hope the fact that the story is not my own is not a problem. If it is, you may do whatever you see fit with the information. It's never a problem. Myself, 3 brothers and sisters all grew up in the South Island of New Zealand, in a suburb on the outskirts of Christchurch City. Been there. Actually went there chasing hogs with dogs, wild pigs, boars, whatever you call them down there. I now live in the UK, but make it back to see my family as often as possible. It was in the mid-1980s, and my brother and a friend were riding their motorcycles through the many logging roads and tracks of Bottle Lake Forest on the outskirts of Christchurch. This happened in an area of forest maybe 2 to 3 kilometers away from the rear of Burwood Hospital. The whole area has now been deforested and housing built. At the time, I was at home working on my car. I also live very near the forest, maybe 3 to 4 kilometers as the crow flies. I heard the familiar sound of his approaching trail bike in the distance, tidied myself up to meet him, and he powered up my driveway and dumped his bike on its side, then walked straight to me and tossed his helmet. He was absolutely excited about something. All he could get out of his mouth were a bunch of bad words. Holy shit, holy shit. His eyes were huge. Eventually calmed down and said something like, "You're not going to believe what I just saw." A minute or so later, I managed to get what happened out of him. Himself and his friends are riding the usual tracks they'd ridden for many times before, enjoying the day as they often do. They rounded a corner, and there was something in the middle of the logging road, 20 to 30 meters ahead. Immediately he stopped, and the thing quickly turned and seemed as startled as he was to see them. Quick interruption. That's the part that has my curiosity. How many times have people said they've seen these things, and they see a human being and they look just as surprised as a human seeing a Sasquatch, right? That surprise is frickin' surprised. And also my mind goes back to the guys north of Fort Nelson, British Columbia, where they were stuck up on the tower in the night with one of these things walking around, squatting down, looking at them like, holy shit, what are those? When meanwhile, there's human beings all over the frickin' place. So why is it that so many of these beings, when they see a human being, act like it was possibly the first time ever? How does that happen? Where were they? Previous, right? It's something to think about. After literally moments, the thing took off. He was surprised at how fast it could move. He said it was so fast that the only time it slowed is when it jumped a log on the roadside, then it was gone. I quizzed him on its appearance, and he said it was covered in dark hair. It either had very large calf muscles, or the hair was very long in that area. The color was black/brown, and it was very tall, about 7 feet. The face was not flat, but almost had a snout. The eyes were very dark, practically all black. He said the eyes are what stuck with him as they looked right at each other. I said to him, "Let's go back." And he instantly replied, "No effing way." He was scared. Very unusual for him, as he was a no BS type of guy. Over the next month or so, I tried to convince him to go back, but he just wouldn't. We both grew up playing around in that forest. I never saw or felt anything there. A few years later, a family very prominent in the church said they saw something in the same forest. I managed to ask one of them what they'd seen, and he just said something huge and hairy stepped through some bushes towards them. They turned tail and ran before seeing much else. I also asked my brother's friend that was with him what he saw, and he just didn't really want to talk about it. He just shrugged, and he said he didn't know what the F that was. Okay, so that's the story. I'm pretty sure I've included everything he told me. I did go to the spot a few times myself, but never saw / heard / felt anything unusual. Since discovering your videos, it's rekindled my interest in what it was that my brother saw. I've discovered that these things also exist in Maori, Native New Zealand people, stories, and they call it mohau. They also have yowie in Australia and woodwoo here in the UK. I see most of the sightings you cover in the majority in America and Canada. Thought it may interest you to know they are being seen deep in the southern hemisphere in New Zealand as well. You have alluded to the fact in a couple of your videos that you know what they are. Can you tell me? Because I would love to know. I've been wondering half of my life what the hell they could be. Hopefully some of this info may be of use to you or anyone else should you decide to read this in one of your videos, which, may I add, are visually stunning. I shall continue to follow you. Okay, so that's it for me. Thank you for taking the time to read this email. The story is not as thrilling as others you've read, but hopefully it will be of use to someone. Kia kaha. Be strong in the Maori language. Take care and all the best. Bill Dunbar. P.S. I'm eagerly waiting the release of your app. Okay, Bill, when was this? 2022? Or maybe I saved it on 2022 March. Oh no, that was April 7th. All right, we got it. Either way, I got this, right? It was March. Sent it. And I, again, absolutely appreciate you sending that. And yes, it's going to help somebody for sure. And I might even add, I'll tell you what, I found some clips from my trip to the South Island. I'll share some of that video at the end of this video with you guys to see what I saw, some of what I saw. And tell you what, those mountains are freaking beautiful down there. And I remember saying to my friends, we got dropped off by helicopter way up in the mountains with a lot of camp gear, and I remember thinking to myself, this is crazy. I don't have to worry about anything laying down here on the ground in the middle of nowhere. No poisonous snakes, no grizzly bears, no black bears, no cats, no nothing. Just that damn spear grass. Shit. What doesn't kill you with teeth and fangs in New Zealand, the vegetation will, trust me. Holy cow. I was out near a place called Hast, I think, West Coast, running around in that jungle. Holy shit, thick. Thorns, and then I had on polar fleece camouflage hunting pants and went running around the slopes above. Oh man, sorry, I can't remember it right now. The big lake. Big, nice small town right on the lake there. But we were running around the mountains above there, and the eel, was it still spear grass? Holy shit, destroyed my legs. But anyway, thanks again for saying that in, man. And there's been a good handful of people who sent in experiences from New Zealand, all right? And of course, lots from Australia too. So, it's definitely not being missed. I'll guarantee you, somebody, a fellow Kiwi somewhere, is gonna write in again to us after hearing what you shared, without a doubt. Now they know they're not the only ones, right? And can I tell you what they are? I cannot dictate to anybody exactly what these beings are as of yet, and I'm still waiting for Edgar and his colleagues to get a hold of us and drop everything they know, and that is going to bring us all up numerous notches, without a doubt, all right? So be patient, it's coming, there's more coming. And here comes another one. Long forgotten memories from my childhood. That's the title of this one. Hey Steve, feel free to use the moniker I mentioned herein. It's one of a few I'm proud of. I'd like to start off with a little background. I grew up in the mountains of southwest Montana. The ridge tops, high mountain lakes, river bottoms, and even a few abandoned mine shafts from my playground. Due to my love and knowledge of the outdoors, some of the buttheads in high school gave me the moniker Tim the Mountain Man. I just laughed and told them that I like it and that I was going to keep it. There you go. After high school, I enlisted in the U.S. Navy and became a gunner's mate. I served for 5.5 years, working about 2/3 of that time as a naval police officer at a small base in Puget Sound area, Washington State. You have shared several experiences lately from my home state. I know the areas that were talked about, and those shares have caused several long-forgotten memories to resurface. At about 10, my parents decided that as long as I took the dog with me, I could start going out in the mountains alone. Wow. This was a thrill for me because the base of the nearest mountain was somewhere between 300 and 500 yards from my back door. On almost every trip up the mountain I took, I would find skeletal remains of deer and elk. Now, normally this would be an odd thing. We have mountain lions, bears, grizzly and black, and wolves that call the valley and mountains home. What made these kills stand out was the fact the skulls were crushed. There were no tooth marks, which rules out a crushing bite. The other thing I noticed was that the femurs were broken. They were broken in a twisting manner. That's bizarre. As a kid, I didn't think of the implications of what I was seeing. I didn't think of the extreme amount of torque needed to break the femur of an elk in that manner, nor did I think of what could possibly crush elk and deer skulls like that. I look back at these memories now and can see that the only possibility is that it was the big guys. No human alive today could generate the forces necessary to do this kind of damage to these bones. I did take pictures on one occasion with a little disposable camera. No camera phones at that time. But my ex-wife burned them along with every other photo I had taken when I was growing up. To put it nicely, she did that just to be spiteful. That's disgusting. I had something similar happen in my past. Pretty rude when people's... Anyway, moving along. One other experience sticks out as well. During rifle season, just after I turned 15, my father and I heard a bear bawling on the other side of a ravine we were hunting. The ravine was only about 500 yards wide. Where we were at, we looked over and saw a big grizzly burst through some junipers, running full speed along that side, still bawling. He came from what was our right to left and went up the ravine. After we lost sight of him, I asked my dad if that bear was running and bawling like that because he was afraid of something. He said that probably got his ass kicked in a fight with a bigger bear. We sat and talked about our next move. If it was a bigger bear, we really didn't want to stick around. Some we decided to head back to the truck and call it a day. Must have meant then we decided to head back to the truck and call it a day. Steve, this is a mature boar. Its bawling sounded to me like it was complete and total terror. I don't know of any animal that is scientifically accepted and lives in my home state that can put that kind of fear in a mature bear. Well, that's about all that has come back to the surface so far. I'm 35, I have 25 years of memories to go through and reevaluate. As the puzzle pieces come together, I will share more. Thanks, Steve, for making this place for us to share our knowledge and experiences. My condolences for Mr. Macaroni. I do know that loss, sincerely. Okay, man. Thanks for that, Tim. All I can add in for the grizzly bear question, from what I've seen firsthand, I have seen grizzly bears getting run off of a kill by a bigger bear and come running by me, and they didn't bawl at all. You could hear them heavy breathing, like, as it was coming up through the willow and went right by me in the willow and over the pass. But then when he got to where my scent was, then all of a sudden it went, dead silence. It's like, oh shit, he smells me. But anyway, other than that, I have had grizzly bear come right into my lap, chasing a moose, and chasing for a long time. And again, all they're doing is breathing heavy. Have I ever heard, the only time I've heard a mature grizzly bawl is when they've been on the receiving end of a chunk of lead, for sure. I have seen grizzly sow trying to fend off wolves with her tiny cub. She didn't make any sound at all, just fought. What else have I heard? I have heard a huge grizzly let out a loud a loud growl at us. He was on a pile of kill and we were sneaking around. But we were like probably a couple hundred yards away from it, but the wind swirled and went into where this big pile of dead roadkill was from Alaska Highway, and that thing let out a roar like you wouldn't believe when he smelt us. So he was pissed off and he took off and he never came back. But other than that, I can't recall of any bears running. I've never heard a mature grizzly bawling in my life, especially in view and running and bawling. So there you go. That's what I can say about that. And you know the deal on the crushed skulls. Usually predators will eat the faces off of a moose from the nose forward, especially the bears and the wolves, but they don't leave the skull's not present crushed. It's just ate. It's ate. A pack of wolves will eat the entire skeleton of an elk or a moose, and they'll leave the antlers and the teeth, but the bones won't be there crushed. So, and obviously nothing twists. They don't twist the femurs. They grind them up. They chew them up and grind them up and eat them. So, I think you probably know the answer yourself already, right? Here we go. Here's another one. It's kind of freezing in here. I haven't got the wood stove hooked up yet, you guys. I know, hook it up. It's right there. It's got to go up there. It's in line with to do things. In the meantime, it's pretty cold in here. It's titled Story. Hello, Steve. I have a slightly different story to tell about something that happened to me back in December. I'd had a normal night and went to bed early and was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, I was wide awake, sitting up in bed, and then I heard it. Footsteps on my roof. That would suck, and we've heard that a handful of times. A sudden fear started to overcome me as the lowest access point to my roof is 10 feet. I swung my feet out of bed and retrieved a pistol from my nightstand. I moved to the hallway, and the footsteps moved to the right over me. Here I am standing in my hallway in my underwear with my pistol in my hand when I get an overwhelming feeling that there is something not human on my roof and it is searching for something. This feeling was strong, almost musk-like, the way it stuck to me. Okay, the feeling word must have been this scent, probably, because, okay, I'm going to do that sentence one more time. This feeling was strong, almost musk-like, the way it stuck to me. So it must have been this smell, I'm guessing. I was frozen to the spot in my hallway, not knowing what to do, when something started to swell inside me, something strong and good, and as it grew stronger in me, the footsteps started running down the roof and they were gone. Well, when I was finally able to move again, I went back to my bedroom and sat on the bed all the while listening for any further steps on my roof, but heard none. Now that I have a chance to clear my mind and think, I find myself questioning what just happened. When I awoke, I was so wide awake and my adrenaline was screaming in my head, and I know it was not a dream, and believe me, I'd gone over it 1,000 times in my mind, always come to the same conclusion. I got no sleep the rest of the night, and as soon as first light, I had a flashlight, looking for any signs of something being on my roof, but found nothing. I know it's not quite in your wheelhouse, but I feel these things may be linked somehow. Anyway, I love your work. I hope you can include this in your sharing of the truth. God bless Mitch. Mitch, thanks for that. And I'm pretty sure by now you've heard numerous people emailing us to share that something is on the roof. They've had people seeing it on the roof. That one thing grabbed that one guy who wrote in, grabbed his little brother outside when it jumped off the roof. I've had reports of things that resemble the dogman description on roofs, footprints on roofs in the snow. That's unnerving as frickin' hell, isn't it? It's funny, even when in war and in hunting, whoever's above wins, right? Whoever's on top wins. You're always vulnerable when the threat's from above. It always makes you feel way more vulnerable. Ugh. I don't want anything on my roof. All right, keep us posted on anything else that may happen, all right? And I'm sure somebody might email in something similar now they've heard you come forward, right? Here's another one. I never saw anything but is the title of this email. Dear Steve, so glad my brother-in-law showed me your site. I thoroughly enjoy your efforts to let us educate ourselves. In June '75, I was at home on leave from the service. My dad and I always loved fishing in northern New Mexico, so we rented a cabin on private property abutting the Santa Fe National Forest. My sister and her best friend decided to accompany us as they had just graduated from high school. This cabin is on the Rio La Casa, about 5 miles west of Cleveland, New Mexico. After we fished hard all morning, and the ladies had ridden horses onto the National Forest at 8,000, 10,000 feet, we returned to the cabin for lunch. After eating, we were sitting on the benches on the open front porch, contemplating the Camera died. It sounded like it was less than 100 yards away. It began with a low guttural grunting or growling like bulls fighting through a fence, but loud, and lasted about 20 seconds, followed by a terrible, ear-shattering scream, very loud again, of about 15 to 20 seconds. The hair stood up on our arms, necks, and heads, and we all jumped to our feet saying, "What the hell was that?" I ran around the cabin to see if I could find out what had made these sounds, and could not, as there was a narrow little apple orchard between us and the stream bed where the sounds seemed to originate. I spent 65 of my 70 years in the outdoors, and I've never heard anything like it before or since. The horrible outcry put a damper on our afternoon, and the girls decided to stay at the cabin and not go riding again that afternoon. No doubt. My dad and I fished all afternoon, but we kept our eyes and ears open and didn't go far. We even quit and headed in well before the best fishing at dusk. After we got in, we ate supper and talked and played cards till about 9:30 p.m. when we went to bed. My dad and myself on twin beds, and the girls on a pallet they made on the floor. At about 5:30 the next morning, I got up to go down to the outhouse when I noticed the girls were huddled together under their covers, whimpering and shaking. When I asked them what was wrong, they asked if it was gone. When I said Dad and I were the only ones there, they came out and told a story that would make your skin crawl. They said at about 3 o'clock in the morning they heard something creeping up the back landing and quietly opening the back door. Whatever it was then padded across the kitchen floor like a man stealthily walking, but of tremendous weight as the floor joists were creaking and groaning. They sat up as it got to the doorway and said it had to stoop to get into the room, and was so bulky and broad it took up the whole doorway. Holy shit. They said it was black and shaggy haired, and it just looked right at them. They were so scared they just dove under the covers and awaited what they thought was their death. When my dad and I asked why they didn't scream or say anything, they said they were beaten down by fear and couldn't open their mouths. My dad and I were very light sleepers, and he had a pistol by his bed, but we heard nothing, like we were in a trance. That will put a damper on your fishing trip. Do you think? Coincidentally, in May of 71, 3 of my friends and myself were camping about 4 miles northwest at Walker Flats on the forest when we decided to hike up the North Fork of the Rio La Casa, where it boxes up, and climb up to the wilderness. When we got to the top near the North Fork Lake, I started feeling very uneasy, like I was trespassing, and something kept telling me, "Go, get out of here." I tried to ignore it, but I kept feeling very strongly, "Go, get out of here, get back down the mountain." Finally, I couldn't stand it no longer, and I was able to convince my friends to leave, and we did. I still think about those 2 incidents and wonder, but since I've started watching your posts, I don't wonder anymore. Excuse me. I still love the outdoors, but I certainly feel best when I'm carrying my 30-06 or 8mm Remington mag in the mountains. You can certainly sign my name. Sign my name? Probably meant share my name. Best wishes, and keep on putting the info out there. Bob Parsons. Bob, appreciate you coming forward, man. Without you, this channel's nothing, all right? This group of people. Without each other, we're frickin' nothing. Tell you what. You're not the only one to have reported something coming into a house or cabin. And that is a ballsy freaking move, isn't it? And you're also not the first one to report. It's very, very, very common for people to be sharing tents or in a cabin, somebody else is sleeping right there, and they are absolutely in a coma during the screams that are right outside a window or right outside a door, absolutely in a coma as the cabin or the house is getting the shit beat out of it from outside. Right? How common is that? It's so common, it's freaking ridiculous, and I don't get it. It's very confusing. A lot of these experiences are very hard to figure out and make sense of. You can't even make up a funny answer for it. They're so out there. We just don't have enough knowledge to wrap our brains around some of the aspects of these experiences, right? Of what's going down. It's very frustrating. But that one, from everything going dead silent to people, almost like people's ears are popping, like they think the air is heavy. The sound absolutely going away, electricity in the air, people staying in a coma. It's almost like our vibration, your vibration has changed up to be able to be in a different plane almost, but still standing on the same ground you're on, right? People know the answer. Somebody knows the answer. Anyway, I'll tell you what, something sneaks into my house, they're going to have a big hole in them. Probably a handful. It's just the way it is, right? All right, moving along. Biting my lip. Babbling. Brother, paramedic, firefighter, president, poacher, Everglades is the title of this email. Hello, Steve. I'm a retired division chief in the fire department, and I cannot unhear what has been told to me by people. So let's get to it. My brother, who lived at the port of the islands in the middle of the Everglades, Florida, called me one night in a panic and said, "Dude, I just heard footfall going down the street behind me, and I saw Bigfoot run by in excess of 30 miles per hour, and I'm scared to death." Fist pumping like a marathon runner. Saw him go under a streetlight and then run south towards the mangroves. Heard the screams the following night. Over 7 feet tall, in excess of 600 pounds. My firefighter who commutes from Miami to is acting erratic, reporting to duty. I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Chief, I saw something this morning on my commute to work on US 41 in the Everglades." I said, "What'd you see?" He said, "Chief, it was a hairy, upright, and it was no guy in no damn suit." He was visibly shaken. Excuse me. President of a large corporation, lives on Marco Island, commutes to Lauderdale through the Everglades, US 41 to State Road 29. He said, "Chief, I've seen well in excess of 250 bears in years of commuting. They go to the side of the canal and just watch me pass." He said this was no damn bear. It came out striding on 2 legs, around 8 feet tall. It was absolutely floored when it jumped like the $6 million man, excuse me, the National Wildlife Refuge fence, which is in excess of 8 feet, probably closer to 10. He's still affected tremendously. I talked to the paramedic who was riding the Everglades so close to these sightings in what they call the South Blocks. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat today. And he said at about 1,000 yards, something passed behind the truck, 8 foot tall, upright, went back, looked, and nothing. Drove back off it, and came back out. They put 2 scopes on it and said, "Are we going to smoke this thing?" Wisely, they did not. All right, so I guess they had 2 rifles pointing this thing. Last one, I have a friend, she runs local airboat tours, and she got real quiet when I asked her if she saw anything. She said, "No, my brother." Face to face, she said, "No, my brother." Face to face, south of I-75 in the Everglades, when he was poaching in the 70s, same vicinity as other sightings, came home scared to death. Please not use my name, but I know these people affected them greatly and what they witnessed. I was affected by what my brother and president of corporation said, and I traveled to Blue Ridge, Georgia most years, and I called David Baccara, and I said, "Man running that fast and jumping that high?" And he said, "Yes, if they wanted you, they have got you." And I've heard those kinds of feats numerous times. Scary. Well, I've exchanged emails with Dave Baccara a few times in the past. Solid guy, for sure. And yeah, jumping the fence. We do know for a fact, we have heard it being described that these things have been seen at nuclear bases and basically squatted down and launched over top of a 10, 12-foot chain link fence with the strands of barbed wire on it, cleared it like nothing, and said basically leapt like a frog, was the description. And obviously we do know that as Edgar has shared the news from numerous of their nuclear engineers, physicists, scientists, they have had, some of these individuals have had over 50 experiences of these things, just stand there looking up into the security cameras on the inside of the perimeter of the 10 to 12 foot security fences. and they cleared them like nothing. So there you go. Crazy shit, man. Crazy shit. Florida's on fire. Florida's absolutely on fire with sightings of all sorts of shit, isn't it? Thanks for sending that in again, man. Here's another one. This is titled, I Watched These Beings Hunt. Steve, my name is Josh Brown. This is long. I'm finally breaking down and sending in my experience. I've been following your channel for well over a year. I'm basically waiting for you to turn into a bullshit channel, but it never happened. And I respect you tons for that. I can't keep my experience to myself any longer. I need to get off my chest. Okay, man. You came to the right place, all right? There is no bullshit here. My story starts in May of 2008 in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. While trout fishing a small creek, I noticed pebbles being thrown into the hole I was fishing, coming from up the hill in dense forest. I thought it was someone pissed off I got the good spot. I'd never seen anything or anyone. I was pissed, so I went to my car, grabbed my gun as an intimidating factor, which was parked about 75 yards away along a railroad. And when I came back, my metal stringer with 4 trout on it was completely gone, and it was wrapped around a tree. So I yelled out, "Come face me like a real man," to the coward I thought was messing with me, and in return I got a grumbling roar that came from the tall grasses about 30 yards away. I thought black bear at first, but I realized a black bear would stick around a human that is yelling for a few fish. So I did get too nervous for my comfort and I left because I was alone and I knew deep down it wasn't a bear or a man that was growling at me. Fast forward to October that year, and it was bow season for whitetail. My family is part of a hunting club with about 600 acres that we all pitch in to lease for hunting, and another member shot the buck I was after. That sucks. But I had noticed another 10-pointer that was a 170 class deer. That's a big one. That was running onto the adjoining property next to our lease. That was about around 2,000 acres in the middle of the forest, owned by an old man in his 70s. That I knew didn't hunt himself, but wouldn't let anyone else on his property either. Well, being young and dumb, I snuck deep into his property from our land, so I knew I had a small chance of being seen. I hiked in at about 3 a.m. at night with a climber and my bow for about a half-a-mile walk. Once I got to my spot I picked, I instantly regretted my decision because I caught a glimpse of what I thought was a flashlight on the next ridge over, and figured I was going to be caught on his property before I even got to hunt it. But that never happened. The light only lasted about 30 seconds and then it vanished. At about daybreak, I heard a wood knock coming from where I'd seen the light, and 3 deer take off running full speed past me. And I thought, why the hell would those people be trying to drive the deer in archery? It doesn't make any sense. What happened next changed my life forever. I heard a loud thud noise down the hill from me, a few hundred feet away, and what sounded like an excited gorilla or a chimp. Right after the thud, and it was so loud it echoed through the woods, and vibration went through my body, and that's when the other one answered it, where I thought was a guy with a flashlight about 3 minutes earlier. I watched the creature crest the top of the hill below me, about 100 yards away, and it was massive. And I don't know exactly how tall it was, but I know that it was wider than the oak tree it was standing next to. As I was watching that one, I noticed movement coming from where I heard the thud sound, and sure enough, another smaller one came walking toward the first one I was watching, and it was dragging a deer by the hind legs and making the excited chimp sounds. They went back towards the way the big one came from, and I lost sight of them. But in the process of all that, I had pissed myself and was shaken so bad I literally couldn't get down out of the tree. I couldn't get my body to function properly. My legs were like jello, and I was honestly stuck in the tree, I guess from being so worked up. Probably massive adrenaline dump. Once I did get down, I just left my stand attached to the tree and just left as fast as I could, because even though they were gone, I could still hear them making all kinds of noises, and it freaked me out. Excuse me. The worst part is I told my cousins I was hunting. The worst part is I told my cousins I was hunting with about it later that day. They got back when they got back from their hunt, and instead of believing me, they went out and found cow shit to put in my boots, and they called me crazy. I've never been hunting again since that day, and I never plan on going out again. I also think it was these creatures I had a run-in with at the creek, looking back now, and I don't ever go fishing alone anymore. And I won't go without my 40 cal on my side. I've completely lost my love for the outdoors after I seen those demons. And it really sucks because I live for the outdoors. Thank you, Steve, for giving us that experience. Thank you, Steve, for giving us that experience, these things, a safe place to share our stories without ridicule. I'm shaking as I type this now, but I feel like a weight has been lifted off my chest. God bless. God bless you too, man. I'm sorry to hear that ruined it for you. I hate hearing that. And that's a big, I've told everybody enough times, that's a big motivation of mine to do what I'm doing, is because all my fellow good, honest human beings out there that get screwed out of being able to live life, experiencing all of their passions, right? Their true passions in this lifetime that make them feel good. It sucks and it's not fair and it pisses me off. And that's why we're here. It's too bad. But again, you've heard me say it. I've said it to almost everybody. I hate it when people quit anything. I don't like quitting. So, but I don't hold it against anybody that quits, all right? I'm just saying, for me, it bothers me, so I can't help myself. I always encourage everyone to go out there anyway. Don't be scared. Be cautious, but don't be scared. Get in touch with your intuition, your sixth sense. Get in touch with it. Go there again. Take baby steps and just feel what it feels like. You can feel it. You can feel when you probably shouldn't go somewhere. And just go with those feelings. And if it feels good, go. Go with somebody. You know? But please don't quit. Okay? Don't drop it. Go somewhere else. Go with a friend. Go with an outfitter. Go with a guide. Whatever. And make sure you keep going, all right? And keep listening and keep sharing so we can get to the bottom of all this bullshit and give everybody the tools they need to be able to live a happy life and do what makes them feel good and what makes them happy, right? And not be blocked because of these dirty, filthy pricks that refuse to allow this knowledge to be shared across the board, honestly, with the population, right? I'm babbling. I could go off on a handful of topics. Currently, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna have to make a Rumble channel video pretty shortly because I got a lot of shit to say. I'm pissed off right now, obviously. Pissed off at what's going on in this country, what's going on with all of us. It's not right. There's a lot of bullshit going on, I'll tell you what. Okay, here's one more short one. I'm gonna share this one, then I gotta go. This is just simple title, Sasquatch. Hello, Steve, it's John from the concrete jungle that is Manchester, England. Been watching your videos of truth for a few years now. Hearing all the people's experiences is compelling, and our voices need to be heard. However, as you have many, many times stated, why are we being lied to? Not just about Sasquatch. The reason we are being lied to is so the few, the elite, I call them satanic pedophiles, are able to control the many through perception. Perception is information received. Most people on earth receive their information or perception of reality from self-proclaimed authoritative evil cults that we have somehow been persuaded into calling our leaders. I could go on and on, Steve. But the truth is, it's time for humanity to wake up before it's too late. Steve, you're a good man and much is needed on earth. Sorry, froze and I'm tired. Steve, you're a good man and much needed on this earth to stand against the evil that envelops it. And I will be stood right next to you, my friend. There's a man by the name of David Icke. He explains how we are controlled through distraction and global governance, thus making society an invisible prison. This rabbit hole goes deep. Please try and speak to David Icke. Thank you, Steve. I pray for humanity. Okay, man, got you, John. Right there with you. I follow as much as I can, and I listen to the people. And sadly, today, this is the conclusion that I've come to with other topics, not just this topic, but with the mainstream topics that are going on today, is number one, if you were to listen to the drum beat of the mainstream news, you should try this experiment. Every single thing a major thing they try to push on you, their mainstream news, flip it over and go the opposite of what they're hammering through that lens. And that will more than likely be the absolute truth, is the opposite of what they're trying to hammer on you through that lens. That's what I've learned. I am absolutely convinced that is true for me. What else could I say on that? I'm going to try to bite my lip because this is a topic that I could really go off on, but I will just end it short with, again, a plea to all of you to absolutely kick mainstream news to the curb. It's garbage. It's all garbage, and it's meant to fuck you up. And it is. All right? I'd apologize for my language, but I don't feel bad about it at all. It's the way I speak when I'm feeling this passionate about certain topics that piss me off. And believe me, it's about as nice as I can deliver it. We're all being screwed over. All right? Unfortunately, the Western governments today, I have a very strong feeling that we are actually on the bad team when it comes down to it, currently, only because of the so-called leadership that is in the position they're in right now. We are being represented globally by the bad team. And it needs to stop, it needs to be turned around. And I'm game. I'm all in. Anybody wants to be all in to turn that game around, I'm in, all right? But anyway, enough of that babble. I'm growling right now, obviously, I'm growling. I'm grinding my teeth and I'm growling. There's a certain politician here in Canada, I would do anything to be able to have my hands on that son of a bitch in private. For real. Wouldn't take very long, a few minutes. All right, I gotta shut up. Keep getting experiences, keep getting the knowledge out here, all right, you guys? It's very, very important. Get the knowledge out to the people. Find channels that are similar to mine. Use my channel, use the people here to get the message out of true and helpful knowledge. We gotta help each other, stand behind each other, out the bad, speak about the good. Speak about the good, honest knowledge that we need to hear about that's going to help each other, not suppress each other. Yeah, I gotta go. I could probably keep talking forever. I don't know why. I should be hungry and tired and wiped out, but I kind of feel like fighting right now. Sons of bitches. As usual, I decided to kill myself. Camp is down around there somewhere. And I went up the river and started climbing, and I couldn't quite stop, so here I am, on top of the world in New Zealand, South Island, and I climbed up to the top of the peaks here. Have a look over the edge. A few clouds in the sky, if some lightning comes, I'm going to be a little